Rev up your engines. All right, today we got a 2014 Honda Civic. It has a very common problem. It has a tendency of shuddering. If you're in first gear, you take your foot off, it shudders. Sometimes it feels like it's shifting weird. But modern cars, they're so computerized, you can never tell if it's in the engine or in the transmission. So, start with the basics. We'll look under the hood. Now, there's 138,000 miles on it. It's been around, but Hondas make pretty good cars. And since it's an older one, it's 10 years old, 2014, it doesn't have all the complex crap that modern ones have. It doesn't have a turbo, doesn't have GDI fuel injection. It even has an EGR valve. None of the new ones do. Like you say, I start simple. We'll look at the air filter, but you can see it's clean as a whistle. So, it's not a clogged air filter. There's nothing obvious I can see wrong. There's nothing loose, nothing coming off. So the giant scan tool's coming out. We got plugged in the dash. We'll turn the key on. Comes the old big scan tool. Everybody knows what it is. We're gonna do standalone diagnosis. It's read the VIN number already, okay. It's USA Civic 2014. We're gonna do a full topology scan because it's got an odd problem. We gotta check everything. And while we are, you can see it's a pretty well laid out car. I mean, the dash is nice. You got the tach here, then the speedometer there. It's a zippy little economy car. Now, do realize one thing I don't like about this 2014 is it's got a CVT transmission. And these 2014s, not the most responsive transmissions on earth. I'm not a big fan. The scan's done and there's 3 trouble codes. So, we're going to start with the trouble codes first. The electronic power steering has a code. That really isn't going to make it run weird. Vehicle speed assistance system malfunction. So the vehicle speed system isn't working just right. Well, we'll just turn that off for the time being. Now we see that's gone, and we'll see what the other codes are. ABS, vehicle speed. Could be the same type of problem. It says the ABS, vehicle speed, quick communication after 30 miles an hour, but this thing shifts bad when it's going 10 miles an hour, so that doesn't have anything to do with it, really. Shows it's got low air pressure. Those systems don't work when they get this old. The tire pressure monitoring systems start giving you fake information. For example, it says check tire pressure. I checked it, it's fine, so that system's broken. Yeah, the erase those codes, and now what we're going to do is we're going to start her up. We're going to go to the main computer and the engine, and we're going to look at live data. There's live data. Now remember, black is good, red is bad. So the first thing I'm going to do is just scan through them all just to see if there aren't any reds, which is where we would start. It can be red and still not trip a code. Okay, here we go. The AC temperature sensor is off. Now the AC's working, I can feel it blowing cold. But that's given the wrong temperature. We'll look at some more information. You'll often see the maximum engine speed be off. That's just something that you'll often get in a Honda. That doesn't mean there's a problem. There's no misfires, so the engine's running fine. You can see 000 misfires. So the problem shouldn't be in the engine management system. Doesn't look like it's a problem with the fuel injection system or ignition system. So let's go to the automatic transmission data. Here's the automatic transmission. And we'll go to live data. Again, we'll look for any bad data. Something that's red and isn't black. Shows the temperature of the CVT. That's normal. Now battery voltage here, it's a little bit low, so we're going to check that out. Well, the first thing we're going to check is the battery and alternator. We'll put it in the shade here where you can read it better. So here we go, testing it, and the battery's 100%, so there's nothing wrong with that. Well, it's a good thing I like looking around because I found the problem. As we see here, the air duct that's supposed to be one piece is ripped. So when she takes off and when it shifts, the engine has a little torque to it. It opens this and gets air in there, and it makes the readings all wrong. Now, this is a Honda part. You can order it at the Honda dealer, and anybody can put it on. You just take the air box off, that clamp there, and replace it. But it's got to be the exact fit with all the same hoses on it. And only a Honda dealer saw that, so hey, you learned something good here. Sometimes it's a simple thing. Now, other people couldn't figure it out because there weren't any codes. It shows you, codes are a good help, but when they're not there, they aren't a help at all. So I'm going to road test it anyways, just to see how the tranny fits. I don't particularly like these CVTs, but I know what they're supposed to feel like. Now I start up, we're going to take it for a road test. As you can see, it's got a little bitty backup camera, kind of small, but you can see it. The oil's smooth. And as we go down the road, I'll accelerate slowly. That way it won't accentuate the rip in the air intake hose. Typical CVT, it lacks good response, but you know, it goes. The reason that it's jerking is because when you take off fast, the engine will jerk a little bit, and that'll open the hole up, and then it won't get the right amount of air and fuel. It'll confuse the computer. See, I felt the hesitation there. I felt it, and it's because it's sucking air when I floor it. So when I floor it, that time it revved up better. But if we come to a stop and we take off, it hesitates right there because it's sucking too much air in. Well, other than that, the car runs perfectly fine. But now I can see why she said she stepped on the gas and hesitate, because it's opening up that air gap, and it just needs that air intake hose, the hose that goes between the air filter and the throttle that's on top of the engine. Just cruising along, it doesn't really affect it because it stays relatively close, but when you floor it, you can feel it there. It's a CVT, so they make a lot of noise. They don't take off very fast. That's just how they are. That's totally normal. And to check the tire pressure, that's going to stay on because the TPMS sensors on the wheels are old and the batteries are dead. The car still corners perfectly fine and drives okay. I got her worried about the CVT to begin with because they often go out in these, but this one's still working okay. It's just that the air fuel's all messed up because of the rip in that intake hose. The typical Honda, the AC's still blowing cold. Now, typical of these, when you take your foot off the gas with a high mileage CVT, you'll often get a little noise like that. And they get worn. You live with stuff like that. So, of course, I'm not a fan of these CVT transmissions. They get lag. Back in 2014, you could get a 5-speed manual, and these things are little race cars then. With the CVTs, they can run quite some time. They just don't have the feel, and they'll make little bits of noises as they age when they're downshifting and stuff. But all this thing really needs is an air intake hose. You can get it at the Honda dealer. I don't advise buying aftermarket ones because often they won't fit right. And then you got a real problem. You'll think that's not the problem when it is, because it doesn't fit right and it doesn't have all the exact hoses and the holes that they fit into for the anti-pollution system. So just go to the Honda dealer, tell them you need the air intake hose between the back side of the air filter and the throttle on the engine. They'll sell you one that just screws on and off. You don't have to recalibrate anything, just drive the car and it'll go back to normal. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Robert Vaughn Jones says, what are your thoughts on a 2024 Land Cruiser? They call it a Land Cruiser, but it really isn't. It's an SUV, and it's millions of times smaller than the real Land Cruiser that had a big old V8. This thing's got a 4-cylinder turbo. It's a completely different vehicle. Now, if you like the style, the size, and you don't mind driving a 4-cylinder turbo that isn't going to last as long, you might be real happy with it, right? But it basically is not a Land Cruiser, just like, you know, the Toyota Supra that they sell now. Isn't even a Toyota. It's a rebadged BMW Roadster. It's made in Austria. It's a German company. It's nothing to do with Toyota. In that case, Toyota makes them at least, but it really isn't a Land Cruiser. They didn't sell that many Land Cruisers in the end. They were selling handfuls of them. So they just gave up, stopped making them, and now they basically turned it into yet another SUV. Dempsey says, how was your time with Pecos Hank? Well, I actually haven't seen Hank. His real name's Hank Schmurna. I haven't seen him in years. I talked to him on the phone, but he lived down the street from me in Houston. And now we used to hang out. He's a really nice guy. He's one heck of a musician. It's so hard to make it in the music business. He ended up being a tornado chaser. He was laughing with me, so Scotty, I gotta risk my life to go out chasing tornadoes to get 50,000 views, and you get 500,000 views just sitting there talking. I said, well, you know, that's the way life rolls out. The dice came up for me, so I'm happy, you know. He likes chasing the tornadoes. It's just exciting. I gotta admit, I'd love to go tornado chasing with him sometime for a couple of weeks. I think it'd be exciting as could be. We had a tornado half a mile from our house in Clarksville couple months ago, I wouldn't mind going and chasing around with them. I think it'd be kind of cool. MSO says, how many speeding tickets did you get? Well, you know, the last speeding ticket I got was in my 1966 BSA 650 Lightning motorcycle. I don't get speeding tickets, and now I'm an old guy. I mean, if the speed limit's 70, maybe I'll do 80, usually 75. If it's 65, I'll do 70, 75, and I usually don't even care about that. And if I am road testing cars, a lot of times there's police in the car with me. That are friends, so, and I'll go places where there aren't any people at all if you're going to speed. That's what I learned one thing about motorcycles. If you want to speed, go out to the country, go down a road that's real long, just regular speed, and look around and see, are there any entrances, are any animals can get in the road, or is it all fenced in? And then when you see there's nobody there, you can come back as fast as you want, right? That's a safe way of doing it. If you're one of those nuts like guys in Houston on a loop, they're racing 100-something miles an hour, they're just asking for trouble, and I was never one of those guys. I would drive fast when I was out in the middle of nowhere, especially out on country roads. When I was a kid, riding out on country roads in western New York by Lake Ontario, there's nobody there in the daytime. A lot of it's pretty much deserted. Most of the people have left. So there's lots of open road. You can go fast. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.